Well, a very good morning to you. It's Tuesday, June 14, 2022. I'm Andy Johnson. Thanks for being with us. As usual, this is how we begin the day around here. This is AM Prime. Let's tell you what's coming down over the next hour and a half. We'll be talking in moments from now with Police Inspector Gideon Dixon. He's the head of the association that represents police officers, and they're saying that they're pushing back just like anybody else or any of the other trade union leaders representing the workers that they have that are bargaining units about the 2% offer on the table for public sector workers. He's saying that they will have none of it. He's suggesting more like 20%. We'll talk with him about the realities of all of that. Of course, we have the COVID numbers. We'll tell you what the updates are. We're talking also with Mr. Kieran Blackman, a spokesperson for an organization known as the Society for Inherited and Severe Blood Disorders. And there's blood donation day activities taking place. We also want to check back in with our friend Kirk Hogan. When we spoke with him a couple of days ago, I think it was on Friday, and I asked him whether or not he believed that the Attorney General should be removed from office because of the controversy that is surrounding him now with his statement in this matter in the Miami courts concerning the continuing issue with Brian Quaitong and company with allegations of fraud and corruption with the construction of the Piarco International Airport. He said he didn't think it was that serious, but that position is now coming more and more to the front. People are asking, the attorneys in the country are asking the Law Association to get involved and hold a meeting and discuss the matter for the removal of the Attorney General from the Parliament, as well as sanction him under the rules having to do with the conduct of a lawyer in his practice in Trinidad and Tobago. So we get an update on that. We take a look around the region. We'll tell you what the stories there are. And in the second hour of the program, we're talking with Mr. Hanif Benjamin, the clinical traumatologist who was a former chairman of the Children's Authority in Trinidad and Tobago. We're talking about what is said to be the rampant incidences of violence occurring in schools in Trinidad and Tobago. And we have a watch this morning, something about a shirtless man. We'll tell you when we get there. So those things and more on the program. Stay with us. We'll be back in a moment.
It comes naturally to us. Unstoppable energy. We use it to manifest a future. A future where energy takes new forms and is used in new ways for all of us. The new age of energy is here.
We dare you to dream, to see beyond the struggle, to envision the possibilities, to live life with unlimited vision. Ferrera Optical supports you with complete eyewear starting at only $795. Let's make those dreams a reality. So book your visit via 227-7000, WhatsApp message 278-2878, or at FerreraOptical.com today. We dare you to keep going. Ferrera Optical says, don't limit your vision.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers?
Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best. I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in-depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WASN,
the content capital.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit? what is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive, it is not rehabilitative.
We the police officers, we are professional and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole, it's for all of us in public.
Talking to Dr. Michelle Khan. She's a health and wellness coach. What your practice entails, what it means to be a health coach, what kind of patients do you see, and what does this practice involve?
Healthcare to me is very holistic. It definitely takes place in the doctor's office, but how you maintain that is what you do at home. What is the energy within your body? What are your beliefs about your health and wellness?
With me now, I have Karen Forbes, another member of the Senior Women's National Football Team. What's up, Doc? Tuesdays and Thursdays here on WESN, Content Capital.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is it no pressure on Nicholas Paul?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
If you live with someone who's tested positive for COVID-19 and has to self-isolate at home, take care of them from a distance and reduce their movement around the house. Give them space, a designated space, and open those windows. If you have to be in contact, mask up, both of you. If you work, stay home from work and don't go out, not even to the grocery or pharmacy. And remember, no visitors allowed. Limit the contact to limit the spread.
The Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross Society. Mission-based, people-focused, community-driven.
All right, welcome back to the program. Well, with us now, our guest, the head of the Police Social and Welfare Association, acting ASP, and that stands for, of course, Assistant Superintendent Gideon Dixon. They are making their voices heard regarding the offer on the table thus far from the CPO for public sector trade unions and organizations representing workers. And he is saying that the police association, his association, is not prepared to accept anything less than, let's see if I get it right, I think the last time I heard him speak, he said closer to 20%. How practical and practicable that is, and what sort of elbow room from maneuver he's leaving the CPO. Some of the questions we want to put to him this morning. Good to see you, sir.
Mr. Johnson, morning to your viewers. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, let me just ask. So I don't have it in front of me, but in the last couple of weeks, the CPO had caused to be put out a statement saying he'd given dates for each of the associations that he has to meet with as to when the second round of so those discussions would be. Have you all met with him a second time, or what's your date? What's your date of your date with him?
So just to put it in the context, negotiations with the public service started on May 19th. The police would have received our offer. Like everyone else, we received a 2% over an 8-year period with 0.0001. That is 2014 to 2018, the first 1%, and 0.01 2019 to 2021. We met with our executive, who outrightly rejected our Central Committee outrightly rejected, and our general membership outrightly rejected. We was given a mandate to respond to the CPO in terms of a counter offer. That we did. We asked for 15% in each of the years, and in the first 3 years, and 12% for each of the year in the second 3 years. Our membership would have given us a mandate since 2020 to pursue 2 periods during this negotiation. Initially, we had a 14 to 16 proposal before the CPO somewhere in 2018. That is what we had inside our membership in a general council meeting in 2020, indicated that they wanted us to pursue a 2%, a 2 period, 14 to 16 and 17 to 19. So even in our counter response to this 2% over the 8 years, we indicated we want to look at 2 periods for the police officers to treat with salary negotiation. That we did, submitted. We met with the CPO on the 10th of June, that was last week, Friday. In that meeting, for the information of all, it was professionally conducted. We maintain that our position is one where it is unique as compared to other persons under the public service banner, and we as police officers believe that we are just due for a lot better than what was offered, and we could not accept that offer at all. The CPO gave an indication that he will go back to his principal, that is the Minister of Finance, and get back to us on the 13th, which was yesterday. And in so doing, they will try to improve what was on the table.
So he did that? Did he get back to you all yesterday?
Yes, we met yesterday. Right? In meeting yesterday, we got an offer for 2 periods. The period 14 to 2016 and 2017 to 2019. So we got an offer which entails 4% for the 6-year period, and as opposed to what was initially offered of 2% over an 8-year period. At this time, we have sent the offer to our stakeholders to treat with crunching figures, and for us to also look at all the permutation, all the variables associated with this offer, with a view of responding. We have to respond within 2 weeks. And we are fully aware of the entire process that entails or entails from here going down the road, right? We are also so informed that there is nothing on the table at this time in terms of whether we will have to re-engage after the next 2 weeks, because it might be the government's final offer. No, there is no indicator beyond this point at this time here. So we are looking at it from all angles in terms of how we treat with this. When you take the entire picture together, police officers at this juncture here, we have, up till this time, we have over 1,300 officers who have retired between 2014 to present. And in the period under review, the 2014 to 2018, we have over 800 officers who have retired. One of the things as an association we are mindful of is that we are trying our best to ensure that all officers whose shoulders we stand on at this point in time must be able to be recipient of something from the negotiation, as difficult as the times may be. So we are looking at all permutations to be able to get it right on behalf of our membership.
All right, so your team accepted the way in which the CPO has broken up the period. So 6 years in the first instance, and then what is the remaining period in terms of how you all had broken it up into two phases?
Right. So I just want to put on public record, we maintain, both us as an executive and our membership maintain that we believe, in light of all the prevailing circumstances, it is in the best interest of all to do 2 periods based on also the projection of the economy and leave a period inside. We understand that the economy would have gotten some shocks over time. We also understand that we are within the context of a global war and the pandemic and everything. And we as an association consider ourselves to be very responsible in our engagement. It is against that backdrop, we believe the 2 periods would have been better to treat with. We know that also there was some saturations, there was some decline. All that taken into consideration, all that I'm saying there, the police officers also in their pocket, and with the fact that inflation would have occurred as much as it had occurred, also was impacted by all the decline. And we also was impacted by all the challenges associated with the COVID, to the extent that we have lost 37 officers to date, and no other industry in Trinidad and Tobago or even Caribbean and Latin America as one entity have lost so much. So we were very mindful, right? And our engagement has consistently been where we know our worth, we understand what is taking place, but at the same time, the narrative before this negotiation was one where, as much as we provide an essential service, the police officer was always pegged against the public service. And if you recall, not too far ago, the public service during this pandemic was afforded many opportunities for leave and to be home and to have flexi time and total lockdown. It was the reverse to the police.
Yeah, they work harder.
Right? So we know that no one else could do what we do on a day-to-day basis. And we also understand that we ought not to be pegged on what you give the public service. There is and there will be the time you have to delink us. We are also aware, the CPO would have mentioned yesterday, that the job evaluation exercise, which will in fact have police officers placed in a better position, is expected, the discussion is expected to start come July of 2022, that is next month, with a view of putting the RFP out in November of 2022. We are the first in the queue for that job evaluation exercise. That in itself is significant because it is true that exercise, on the last time around 20 years ago, we were able to significantly improve the wages offered to police officers. So whilst we continue to be pegged under the public service, we also know that the public service, whatever the public service gets, the police get. But how it used to come across is that whatever the public gets, and the public is treated differently, and the police is treated the same, but they call the police essential, and you work them to the ground, you work them to the bone. To date, from 2022 to present, we, for our mere survival, have to be done on a lot of allowances. Allowances from all angles, and allowances are not used in compensating an officer at the end of his career. So everything looks nice on paper whilst you work. And when you are about to retire, you only calculate based on your flat salary. And then now, that in itself, if you look at how inflation have impacted Trinidad and Tobago, your flat salary at the end of the day and your compensation package is against that, puts you in a disadvantageous position, because we are not as fortunate as our parliamentarian colleagues who have since been able to benefit from an indexing of their salary onto whatever, when they complete, as salary negotiations take place, their salary goes up with whatever contribution goes with it.
Yeah, I want to ask you about the job evaluation exercise. You say that so that is coming, but is that in itself not also way behind schedule?
For the police, we would say it is 20 years late, but it is a good indicator at this point in time because we are one of the few that would have had one done over 20 years ago. We understand that there's an exercise taking place with other entities, but we are first in queue in the new fiscal year to have it done. The truth be told, we have over 20 new establishments onto our existing duties, which have caused just to remain relevant, like to the extent we have so much of allowances. And then, so officers specialize, and when they specialize in now, you give them an allowance on a monthly basis. Some of the allowances, even when the officers proceed and leave, they lose it. So it is a kind of delusional kind of thing they wave in front of you. But the reality is, those allowances need to be considered in relation to our salary and in relation to our pension, so that the officers could in fact be able to earn comfortable for the job that they put out on a daily basis. Those things have to be addressed.
All right, so when you put on the table, so the period you're talking about for 6 years, 2014 to 2020, right? What is there any assurance for the timetable by which the period between 2020 and 2022 will be considered?
That is a question we have. That is a question we have on the table. And let's get it right. The period is 2014 to 2019.
Okay.
The 2020 present, we are nearing the end of the third triennium. So we said we left a triennium in. So immediately upon conclusion here, we can go straight into our presentation for this third triennium, looking at all the factors and the projection of the economy going forward. And the outlook looks better than how it was in the past, but yet still there's some uncertainty because of the threatened famine that might take place down the road in terms of food shortage, in terms of the continued war with Ukraine and Russia. All these things have an implication, but we have that period inside. That period inside could start anytime we so choose to deal with it. So that is something that we have up our sleeve.
All right. So when you go back around the table, when you go back around the table, you say that you say that the body is inclined to take the 4% for that period of those first 6 years. So
I never said that. I never said that. I said that we will respond to the CPO within 2 weeks. Right? The offer now is 4%. Right? The offer is 4%. So we have to, the process is one where we have to engage our central committee and our general membership.
Yeah.
And we have to put the raw data to our members. We also have to try to treat with what is before us and know what we believe that we could get at the maximum. And we are also saying in the same breath, because this negotiation has come in historic times, almost 3 trienniums out, but additionally, it has taken the face of, as opposed to we sit back and wait to see what the public service get and then we get, and then we the police get. That is not the narrative at this juncture here. The police needs to be dealt with, and then we could deal with everyone else. We are not singular in terms of all of us had to face the same traumas over the last 8-9 years. But again, what we do, no one else could have done. And what others have done, we have been doing.
Right. So if this is a situation in which you have to go back to the membership organization or units now and see to what extent what the sentiment is before you go back to the CPO.
Yes, that is exactly correct. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to have to leave it there. So thank you very much for this update. Acting Assistant Superintendent Gideon Dixon, the head of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Social and Welfare Association. Thank you very much. We will stay tuned.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll share with you the numbers for COVID-19 and other matters like that as we move forward here on this Tuesday morning. This is AM Prime. Stay with us.
The Mary Immaculate Prayer Group and Friends presents its prayer breakfast on August 31st in aid of Monsignor Christian Pereira. The prayer breakfast begins from 9 a.m. at the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception. Cost is only $200. Come support the Cup of Gratitude in aid of Monsignor Pereira, August 31st.
Tickets are available. Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fanzone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
There's a taste in the air. Feel the vibe, cause it's something to share. Smooth, rich and creamy, you'll find it right here. Makes you smile, relax a while, it's fun and good cheer. Ooh, enjoy every scoop. Ooh, every taste will get you hooked. We have flavors that you love, a combination special. Come along, enjoy our treats. This is Uncle Pete's.
The best for your baby is at dbesttoys.com. We have the best strollers, car seats, walkers, feeding accessories, playpens, cribs, clothing, and the widest range of brand name toys like Barbie, Hot Wheels, Nerf, LOL, Fisher-Price, Cocomelon, Intex pools, Amazon Fire tablets, HP and Gateway laptops, and the best bikes, scooters, skateboards, and ride-on. Visit us in-store at Southern Main Road, McBean, or shop online now at dbesttoys.com. That's dbesttoys.com. We have the best toys at the best prices.
It may seem like the hardest thing to do right now, but we all need each other to wear a mask, wash our hands, watch our physical distance, and stay at home. We need you safe. Together we can make the difference. Together we can curb the spread of COVID-19. So let's be responsible in our actions. The Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross Society. Mission-based, people-focused, community-driven.
Welcome back to the program. Well, let's run down the numbers now for COVID-19, the new positive cases, the totally recovered patients, the total active cases, the persons in hospital. Let's see what they say before we get to the Newsday poll, the question and responses. So here are the numbers on this morning. 152,814, the total recovered patients, 8,050 total active positive cases. The deaths from COVID-19 thus far are 3,965. 164,829, that's the total positive cases reported since we began the counting on March 12, 2020 to yesterday. 106, the new positive cases reported in the last 24 hours, and 137, the number of persons in hospital in the parallel healthcare system. So that's our look this morning as to what the situation is with COVID-19. Let's move now to the Newsday poll, the question and responses. And the question was, what are your views on the suggestion by Dr. Fuad Khan that the leader of the UNC and the opposition leader be two separate people, two different people? And here are some of the responses. History doesn't repeat itself, but it surely does rhyme. He's forgetting Pandey and Ramesh, Pandey and Dukuran, Pandey and Kamala Prasad Bisesha, which are all basically the same thing. Another response, the PNM party and the PNM government is two different things. But I thought you, okay, you would have seen it. And the other response is one party, one leader. as well as that could never work because politicians will bust each other's throat for power. So the responses written in our vernacular as to what, in response to the question. Let's come now to our discussion with Mr. Kieran Blackman. He's a spokesperson for an organization called the Society for Inherited and Severe Blood Disorders. And today is Blood Donation Day in Trinidad and Tobago and elsewhere in the world. We're talking about blood donation, the imperatives for that. Mr. Blackman, good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
Well, good to have you. So let's understand what is meant here by inherited as well as severe blood disorders. So there's some blood disorders that are inherited, congenital to some of us. We're born with it because we get it from our forebears.
Yes.
What are some of those?
Well, most blood disorders tend to be inherited, and they can be quite severe conditions, right? So the organization is named the Society for Inherited and Severe Blood Disorders of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes. So what are there some that we could pick up along the way and are not inherited?
Yes. Hemophilia can be acquired sometime throughout life. All right. So it's not necessarily always inherited genetically, even though there may be some genetic component, but some persons may acquire it after birth.
Yeah, that's probably the major one that you could get.
Right, but for the most part, well, you could say that something like leukemia, which is a cancer, in essence is a type of blood disorder. So it is acquired, right? So leukemia is something that you could get when you're a lot older, right? Even though it is a cancer, it's a cancer of the blood. So it is a sort of blood disorder as well.
Yeah. And you acquire that over a period of time. Yes. You don't. What are some of the ones that are inherited? If you're saying
well, the main blood disorders that we would represent would be thalassemia, which is a hemo, what you call a disorder of the hemoglobin. So with thalassemia, persons who have thalassemia, their body doesn't make sufficient hemoglobin. So their red blood cells don't carry enough hemoglobin, which feeds the oxygen through the blood. So they tend to be tired and lethargic. They're severely anemic, right? And those persons need blood regularly just to survive, right? And then you have sickle cell anemia, which is also inherited. It's also a disorder of hemoglobin. It's slightly different. Right, with sickle cell anemia, the red blood cells tend to turn to a sickle shape when they deliver oxygen to parts of the body. That causes a number of issues, included pain, organ failure, organ damage over time. Right, because every day your blood is sickling, and that has a gradual effect on the organs throughout your body. Right, for certain reasons. If a case is very active, or for instance, children may have strokes at a young age, and to manage it, you would need regular blood transfusions, right? And then you have hemophilia, which is a bleeding disorder.
Yeah.
Right. So persons with hemophilia, if they get cuts, they may bleed profusely, but their major concern really is internal bleeding. So you can have internal bleeding in joints and in other parts of the body.
The thought just came to mind. Let me ask you about this. It's one of the things we say sometimes about ourselves, about other people who tend to fly off the handle easily. We say that the blood is too near the skin. That where did that come from? How can that be explained in medical terms?
Well, I guess you could see with persons with hemophilia, like especially if they're fairer skinned or lighter skin, they may bruise easily. So anything that happens to them, if they get hit a little bit, if they're playing sports and they get hit a little bit, they bruise easily, so they'll get black and blue easily, right? But that's really because of bleeding taking place internally, right? So I think for reasons like that, those things would have come about. But those things are more observable in persons with a lighter complexion, whether they're Caucasian or even other persons who dress a bit fairer and not as brown as some of us are.
Yeah. So what are some of the activities that people should not get into if you have some of these, if you have vulnerabilities regarding your blood status?
Well, people with hemophilia will tend to probably shy away from too many physical contact sports. Not that they can't play sports, they may be able to play other sports like tennis, table tennis
and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, but even so, sometimes too much physical activity or too much strenuous activity could sometimes affect them. But swimming is always a great option.
Yeah.
Right. Then for persons with thalassemia, I know quite a few of them. They play cricket though. They love cricket. Right. Like someone like myself, I always loved football as a kid. But what would have happened to me is I would have gotten tired quickly because of the lower oxygen level in my blood. I would have gotten tired a lot quicker than my peers. So probably I'll play like a half of football and I'll be done.
Yes. So that is inherited in your case. That's a family trait.
Yes. Well. In most instances, what would happen is that both parents will have what they call a trait, right? So this applies for both thalassemia and sickle cell anemia. So both parents have the trait, and so you will have a 25% chance of the genes being passed on to the children or the child having an active case of the disorder.
Yeah.
So which in that case was me.
And how does that put conditions on the kind of life you live and the quality of life you experience?
Well, as I say, it impacts your ability to participate in physical and strenuous activity in your childhood as opposed to your peers. You don't have that sort of energy level. For some people who have more active cases, they may miss a lot of school. Fortunately, I didn't have that type of active case, even though I would have had some of the more serious complications, right? Because I had surgery when I was about 12 to remove my gallbladder, and I had a stroke at 22, which left me partially disabled, right? But some persons will well every case is different. We even have persons who have something they call avascular necrosis, which is like osteoporosis, but it occurs in the hip, right? So they have to have hip replacement, and that can happen to some persons in their teenage years. So I've known cases in Trinidad here where girls in particular have had cases before around 15, between ages of 15 to 18.
Yeah. And strokes generally are the result of malfunction of the blood.
Well, they can occur in two different ways. One common way is something they call ischemic stroke, which is where the blood just isn't carrying enough oxygen to those areas of the brain. So even though the blood supply is there, the blood doesn't have sufficient oxygen to feed the needs of the brain. So the cells in the brain start to die, right? And that would have been one of the things that affected me. And also, what can also happen is that the sickling of the blood could occur in areas of the brain because the blood vessels are thinner, right? And that sickling will cause almost like a blood clot, so causing a blockage in your arteries, and that's what really causes pain in sickle cell.
Yeah.
What we call a painful crisis, right? So that can occur anywhere in your body. So it can also occur in your brain, and that can also cause a stroke.
All right, so tell us a little bit about the work of the Society for the Inherited and Severe Blood Disorders. What's some of the work you all do as you bring awareness generally to these conditions and so on, but outside of that?
Right, so we bring awareness to the different blood disorders, so sickle cell anemia, thalassemia, and hemophilia. Like for instance, on Friday, on Sunday, I think it is also Sunday's Labor Day, but it's also World Sickle Cell Day. So we're going to have some activities to raise awareness for sickle cell. We're having a roundtable discussion on Friday, which will be live on our Facebook page. We're going to discuss some topical or maybe even controversial issues that may affect persons who are living with sickle cell, like questions such as can we have an active sex life? How much do we share about our condition, right? To peers or even when we go into our workplace, right? How much do we share about our condition? So different topical issues on Saturday. We're going to have a motorcade in San Fernando to raise awareness, right? And we're also going to be doing a couple live interviews with persons who have who live with the conditions to hear their stories and hear how sickle cell has impacted them, has impacted their lives.
So,
right? So yeah.
And just being curious. So the answer is yes to that. If can people with sickle cell anemia have an active sex life?
Yes. I have 2 kids, despite my disability.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
What makes the difference is among those who can and do and those who can't and don't?
We females can have issues in pregnancy, right? You can have challenging pregnancies, or taking things like Viagra may affect you negatively, right? But there are also some issues because like males with sickle cell can get something called a priapism. Right now, a priapism is what you can say is an erection that occurs out of the blue, and it could be prolonged, right? And it really occurs because of sickling in the area, right? It's something caused by sickle cell, so it can happen at any time. It could happen while you're sleeping, or it could happen during the day. For most persons, it occurs really at night, right? But that can cause long-term issues, right? For sexual reproductivity and it could damage the organ itself.
Yeah.
And we also do because many of our patients require blood sometimes on a regular basis, especially for instance our thalassemia patients require blood on a regular basis. Many of them monthly will require monthly transfusion. We also tried to raise a lot of awareness on the need for voluntary blood donation. We host a lot of blood drives on a regular basis, right? To promote this activity. And today, I think I believe the Ministry of Health is renaming the National Blood Transfusion Center in Port of Spain today after our founder. The late Dr. Waveney Charles.
Yes.
Right. So that's something we're looking forward to.
That should be happening today. That's scheduled to be happening today. That's
yes.
In one way of recognizing this day, one means of marking this day.
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah.
Well, I believe too the ministry is also trying to move towards a full voluntary blood donation system. As you may be aware, right now we have what we call a replacement system, that's where you go when you donate blood, they give you a chip, right? So it works like a bank, right? So that's your credit, right? But what they found is that over time that it hasn't been working, and we don't have a sufficient supply of blood. So they're trying to move to a voluntary system, but it is going to require a lot of work in the future. It's going to require a lot of awareness. It's going to require education. a lot of research as well.
When you say moving to a voluntary system, but I thought that people volunteer to give blood, right? What you specifically referring to?
Well, for in the most part, persons volunteer to give blood, but what you'll find, because some of our patients need blood on a regular basis, and blood is difficult to get.
Yeah.
So sometimes families are forced to find or to influence someone to donate blood on their behalf.
Yeah.
Whether they pay in cash or they pay in some other means, right? The fact is that it happens. It may happen in the blood disorder community, and it may happen to others. Persons who have cancer or other ailments and can't get blood when they really need it. Sometimes are forced to go out there and encourage people to donate on their behalf. And sometimes they get desperate and they feel a need to pay in some way. Right? So even if it's not cash, but they pay in terms of services or some other means, it happens.
Yes.
And that can encourage what we will say bad blood in the system.
Well, bad blood in more senses than one.
No, because all right, okay, it's someone a male can donate blood every 3 months, but some persons, because they want the money, they will try to donate blood more than once 3 months, which is detrimental to their health.
Yes.
Right, and then some persons who know that they may have specific ailments that should prevent them from giving blood, right? Will go and donate blood. But remember, all this blood has to be tested and whatnot before.
Right.
But sometimes in those cases, you will pick up these things in the test, right? And this blood has to be discarded, and it's difficult and it's expensive to discard blood.
All right. Well, so when you leave here, when we finish here, what are you going to be doing for the rest of this day to mark this day?
Well, we're going to try to raise a little more awareness on social media. We're really looking forward to seeing what the ministry has in store for the blood bank and their plans for blood donation. We're going to be keeping a close eye on that because we don't have all the details. What we do know is that they're renaming the center, right? We were informed of that, right? I know some of the plans changed a little bit because of the inclement weather. I know they moved part of the activity to Queen's Hall, so they're not actively hosting blood donors in the blood bank today. But generally this week we will be working with the blood bank to encourage persons to come in and donate blood in commemoration of World Blood Donor Day.
All right, we're gonna have to leave it there, but let me just ask you to go out with this so that it may not be the case that there's always a sufficiency of blood in the bank, but you think that every day there's somebody somewhere in the country who's giving blood?
Yes, there are people giving blood regularly. Now remember, we have blood banks throughout the country. We have in Port of Spain, San Fernando, Tobago, Sangre Grande, Arima, and Point Fortin, right? So we have blood banks throughout the country. But we still, I can say that from a patient's perspective, we still do not have an adequate supply because too many times, many of our patients, sometimes they need blood on a regular basis and they may be called to, or they will have an appointment to go for their blood transfusion. And sometimes they have to go 2 or 3 times in a week because the blood isn't available.
Yes, and the bank is low.
And there is a process that they have to go through because the blood has to be matched to them and whatnot.
Yeah.
Right. And it's also worthy to note that it's important for all persons of different races to donate blood because that is also a factor. Right. It's better for you as an African person to get blood from an African donor. And same goes for Caucasian. Even though they say we all share the same blood.
Yes.
And there can be factors, especially when you receive blood regularly. These things do make a difference.
All right, thank you very much. Next time we meet, I want to talk about what is the truth or the science about what is called mad blood, but we leave that for another time. Thank you very much, Mr. Blackman.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Karen Blackman.
Good morning to your viewers.
Thank you very much. Karen Blackman, spokesperson for the Society for Inherited and Severe Blood Disorders. We begin our look around the region now with a trip back to Guyana, where Guyana news source is reporting on what it says the country's public response minister announcing that artists will promote vulgar and lawless behavior will not be allowed to perform.
Citing the recent shooting off of guns and bottle pelting that took place at a recent stage show while Jamaican dancehall star Skeng was performing, the minister responsible for public security in Guyana, Robeson Ben, has announced that artists like Skeng will no longer be allowed in Guyana at events in public places.
And I have to say here and now that no artist like Skeng will ever come again into this country. Will not come again into this country under the signature of any person from the Ministry of Home Affairs or from the Guyana Police Force. Will not come on a public stage. If they want, they could go into a private club and behave as badly as they want. But we will not sign off on any such artist, on any artist who has a record of promoting vulgar and lawless behavior, including the firing of gunshots in public spaces.
Under a previous PPP civic government, when Robeson Ben served as the Minister of Works, he had come under fire when he barged into one of the state-owned radio stations and ripped a CD out of its player because he did not agree with the lyrics of the Calypso song that was being played on air. The Ballaration concert, which was held over Independence Weekend back in May, featured Skeng and a number of other Jamaican and Guyanese artists. The event was hosted as part of the band launch for Guyana's Cricket Carnival, which takes place in September. The firing of gunshots and the throwing of bottles in the air took place near the end of Skeng's performance as he sang his hit song, Protocol. While the Minister of Home Affairs has announced his plan to direct the police force and other services not to grant permission for the hosting of public events featuring artists like Skeng, he did not outline what system or procedure will be employed to determine the admissibility of foreign artists to perform in public places based on the lyrical content of their music. While there were 6 events hosted by the Hits and Gems promotion group as part of their band launching for the Cricket Carnival, the Skeng show was the only one that ended prematurely because of bottle throwing and the firing of gunshots. The Guyana Police Force had announced that an investigation was launched into the shooting incidents. While there were several video recordings of persons firing their weapons, the police force is still to announce any arrests as part of the investigation.
All right, time now for news of the hour at 7 o'clock, and then we go to our discussion with Hanif Benjamin, clinical traumatologist, talking about rampant violence in schools across Trinidad and Tobago. Stay with us.
In this season, we talk more about health, wellness, and everything in between. I am so excited to share with you everything about health and wellness so that you can design the life that you've always dreamed of. Join me here on What's Up Doc. What's Up Doc, Tuesdays and Thursdays here on WESN, Content Capital.
Seven is out, all day is in. WESN News on the hour.
Every day, we communicate through stories. Stories of ourselves, our challenges, our goals, our experiences, and our aspirations. Storytelling is an art that we have mastered. WESN Film Studios comprises a collaborative team of experts with extensive industry experience locally, regionally, and internationally. ability of your business to successfully communicate with your preferred audience depends on the strength of the stories you tell. Your vision should be communicated in a high-quality, professional, and creative way. From concept to post-production, advertising to film, multi-camera productions, live events, streaming, and virtual conferencing, we are WESN Film Studio. Let your own unique voice be heard and your vision realized. Call us today at 628-5835 for your next production.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers?
Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best.
I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Site, Thursdays at 11 a.m. only on WESN, Content Capital.
The Mary Immaculate Prayer Group and Friends presents its prayer breakfast on August 31st in aid of Monsignor Christian Pereira. The prayer breakfast begins from 9 a.m. at the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception. Cost is only $200. Come support the Cup of Gratitude in aid of Monsignor Pereira, August 31st.
Tickets are available at the parish office of the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception and the parish of Our Lady of Perpetual Help.
All right, welcome back to the program. We're talking now with Mr. Hanif Benjamin, a clinical traumatologist who was a chairman of the Children's Authority in Trinidad and Tobago. We're talking with a phenomenon in front of us these days, violence in schools in the country. The note is that there is rampant violence among school children in Trinidad and Tobago. It's a subject we've discussed before, but it comes back at us. Good morning, sir.
A blessed good morning to you and to all your viewers and listeners throughout the world. Yeah. Let me start by saying this. In 1996, around there, a fellow student, classmate of mine, died from a fight where his head was busted open. Years before that, my first foray of violence was students fighting girls. Patches of hair were pulled out of their head, and their breast and other parts were exposed in the fights every single day when I attended Marabella Junior Secondary back in the days. This is not a phenomenon, and I want to make that absolutely clear. What this is an inability to deal with a perennial issue before our schools. This is not a phenomenon. This has been with us since King Hatchet was a hammer. I have explained to you in my youth days, I have seen violent fights, including death. And so what we are dealing with is an inability to get a situation under control for myriad of reasons, but I wanted to make sure that we get that point very clear.
So it's not new.
It is not. It is not. Violence in school has been a thing forever. But more importantly, I would have said repeatedly during the pandemic that school, in most instances, were the place where children spoke about abuse. School were, in essence, a safe place for many of our children, but for a few hours. When the pandemic came and school had to close, no fault of anyone, our children had no place to go. They lived in the lion's den. They lived in the jungle, and there was no rescue. And so I want that to also be clear, that for 2 years, our children were locked away to be protected, and therefore, any psychologist or behaviorist will tell you it takes 2 years for behavior change to occur. That was the period of the pandemic. And therefore, we shifted the classroom violence to online violence, or what they call the keyboard warriors. And nobody treated with those issues. And as a result of that, nobody heeded my call when I said if we are opening schools, the approach must be different. You cannot open school to concentrate on any exams. Children were locked away for 2 years, and in their release, as it were, we needed to take a psychosocial approach to education. We needed to take a mental health approach to education, and we needed to decompress a very compressed situation where children were locked away. And whether or not it was abuse or just cabin fever, they have a lot to explode on.
And so we were in a position, we had what it took to do these things?
Of course. We have social workers, we have guidance counselors, albeit inadequate for our school system. Because as you and I both know, one social worker to 4 schools, that could mean 2,000 to 3,000 students. We have one guidance counselor to 2 and 3 schools. That could mean 1,000. So there's an inadequate amount of guidance counselors and social workers to do the awesome job that they do.
Right.
But we have people in the system, and what I suggested is that even if you needed to employ companies, private firms to come into the school for this last 2 months, April, May, June, that last semester there, to begin to do a targeted approach to students, we wouldn't be in this situation. But our response is always negative and punitive. So we have principals calling to have police patrol. I am confused as to what exactly this patrol is going to do, right? We want to lock up children and charge them without first understanding what really occurred. We want to vilify our children, and we are always swift to make an example of children. Yet when we have criminals roaming the street, we are not as swift as we should be. And therefore, it is constant that what we are doing is constantly failing our children over and over and over. And yet again, we see a situation of failure to one, address the violence that is perennial, that has been in schools forever. And secondly, a failure to address the return to school. We have not addressed in any significant way the issues that our children are facing in any real way. But our approach is female MILAT, boot camp, lock them away, expel them. That has been our response. That is why we will consistently be in this position year after year. This school violence is not new, and nor is it a new thing to the world. As a matter of fact, if you look throughout the world right now, in certain societies, school violence is very much on a rise or is very much present. And the reason for that is that students have a lot to say and we are not listening.
So in this case, I think you spoke about that in the last couple of days, the decision of the authorities to suspend the girl in Williamsville. You said that the approach to treating that was all off mark, all wrong, right?
That is not suspension, that is expulsion.
Right. She was expelled.
And I want people to understand, you expel the child to what? To whom? What exactly are we saying to this child in this expulsion? What exactly are we saying in terms of rehabilitation and to re-engineer a 15-year-old girl into society? Where and what is this girl going to become? You have to understand, for a long time, we should have set up suspension centers. I think there are 1 or 2, but it is not operating the way it should be in terms of best practice model. And this child should have been sent to a suspension center where this child should have received serious psychosocial mental health counseling, first and foremost, to find out why she did what she did, what was the mitigating factors surrounding it, as well as the other students involved, right? So again, the approach is one of sanction and punitive, and we are helping no one. And let me be very clear. I am not negating or even reducing the fact that she did what she did. And I am not reducing the fact that there are repercussions to every action. We have a children court who have a robust youth arm of it that deals with sanctions and stuff. And maybe that should be the place where she should go, where she appear before her peers and deal with the circumstances there so that she could be in a more restorative type of environment. We continue to do the same thing over and over, and we are surprised when the results have not changed. I think they call it insanity. And as a society, we continue to be insane in our approach.
Yeah, but for one thing, she's been accepted by another school. What the reporting I saw said, but also that in the reporting it came out that she said that she'd been complaining about being harassed by others, and
thank you very much. I didn't want to bring that up. Because unless she told me that, I don't want to say that. But the point I'm making here, and I'm glad that you brought it up, is a proper understanding of what... Listen, nobody wakes up in the morning and decides to walk with a knife to do harm. There is a beginning. And while the end was unfortunate, if we are to figure out how to prevent further and future events like this, we must understand from a therapeutic jurisprudence perspective where the law and social work must combine to bring a rehabilitative effort to our children. If we continue to go down this purely punitive road, we will solve nothing, and the authorities seem to not understand that fact. The authorities seem to not understand that this is an issue that has been going on year after year. And I make no mistake in people being surprised, because we have seen violent fights over the century, over the many years, And so if we keep taking this purely punitive approach as opposed to a therapeutic jurisprudence approach where we merge both law and social work, the children court was designed for that very purpose. Peer resolution was designed for that very purpose. And there is a lot of help within the system that we could give to this student and many other students who are going through. A victim becomes a perpetrator, but in this society, the perpetrator is the one hauled away. When that perpetrator was a victim, nobody helps. When the perpetrator is calling out and crying out, nobody helps. But when the victim turns a perpetrator now, all arms are up. Oh, and we're not tolerating this, we're not doing this. As opposed to, what are we not doing to protect our children? What have we not done to prepare our children for the re-entry into this face-to-face scenario? And we continue to fail our children at every turn.
To what extent these things what you're saying here, get discussed in the fora where they should? And what is your sense as to how people receive alternatives to what, let's take this case, to what has been prescribed as to how to treat this matter? When you all as professionals in this field sit and talk across the table?
The problem here, Andy, is that there's a serious segregation and a serious unwillingness. I am shocked that I have not heard from the bodies representing the Parent Teachers Association and if they have spoken, I apologize, but I have not heard or seen any real defense of this child, or not just a defense of the child, my apologies. I have not heard anyone speaking about the situation in a restorative manner that is going to bring about a sustained change, right? What I hear is lock up and throw away the key. What I'm not hearing is people understanding the rights of a child to education. What I am not hearing is a rehabilitative approach from any professional sector in relation to what happens to this child. And that is the unfortunate truth of where we are as a society. We have people in authority who do not listen. They do not listen, and they do the same thing over and over and over again. And I and others like me come and we talk over and over again. But the fact is, if the people in authority do not understand child and adolescent development, do not understand trauma in children and adolescents, who do not understand how the brain works in terms of fight, flight, or freeze, who do not understand how the survival mechanism works in children, but yet they are the one pronouncing, then the pronouncement will always be a punitive one, because that pronouncement, Andy, is the easiest of them all. It is easier to push to the side and keep it moving. But let me tell you this, if you look through history, there is no pushing to the side. There is no hiding of the fact. Every single moment, we have a very violent event, but there are multiple sub-violent events. Violent, but not to the point of television.
Yeah, I think Tutor made a statement in the wake of the decision that had been taken, that they're questioning whether the approach that has been taken to suspend her, and then she got charged and
so allow me to apologize then. As I told you, I did not hear. But if I did hear, I will apologize. And so I am sorry, and I'm happy that Tutor would have come forward and made such a pronouncement. Unfortunately, I didn't hear the National Parent Teachers Association.
Right, that's the organization you spoke about, yeah.
Of course, who advocates for the children, Andy? Who advocates? There is no union to represent the children. So unfortunately, they are left without a voice. But I am glad that a school did accept. And I, Hanif A. Benjamin, at the Center for Human Development, will work with that child should she come forward to us. We will work with that child to help her through whatever she's dealing with, including understanding her actions, understanding the veracity, and understanding that there are ways in which we should deal with things. We will work with her. So whoever that school is, they can contact us at the Center for Human Development, and we will provide the work with that child, and even the class, a simulator into the class, because of course, there are going to be challenges around assimilation, having been expelled from one situation to the next. And so we will continue to work with all who would like us to work with them.
Yeah, just to restate your point here about some of the proposals that are emerging about, as you say, a girl's my lat. So that approach is inappropriate in your view, that to be that kind of thinking.
Listen, my lat and all these youth programs have a beautiful need. There's a beautiful need for the program. And I don't want people to get me wrong. I support the youth programs. However, in Trinidad and Tobago, we use the youth program as a punishment as opposed to development. Once you put a punishment, twang or twist on the program, then you have tainted what the program was intended to do. The program was not intended to be in lieu of some type of punishment. The program was meant to develop young men and women in a particular direction. But we have turned these programs into sanctions. And there should never be, that program should never be a sanction. Because once it becomes a sanction, Andy, the children would not receive it as what, just like how the police use clubs. And I remember when we were going through the Children Act and stuff, I said we should not put sending a child to a youth club as a sanction. because it should be seen as development. And once you create the woman Milat and the woman this and the men this, and we create it in a way that it is in lieu of some kind of bad behaved child, then we have tainted the beauty of what the program is and what the program can deliver. And I know people who work in these programs who are very well equipped to help develop children. But their cry is always, when a child comes as a punishment, to move that child from that phase of mental thinking of a punishment is a difficult task. And it erodes the beauty of what those programs can do. So we need to change the thinking from this punitive punishment to youth development, positive youth development.
Yeah, and there are predictions that things are going to get worse with bad behavior and misbehavior in schools.
Once we have not treated with the issues before us, which was exacerbated because of COVID-19 and the fact that our children were locked away for 2 years, for the fact that online bullying was very much present, and now the online bullying has gone into a real life situation, we will continue to see this. If our approach to fixing the issue is police patrol, police in the school, police coming to lock up the child in school against the judge's rule, right? And so once we continue to do these things, we will remain right where we are. And you and I will be having this conversation in the next few months as this continues, because the people who are in authority, they are not understanding youth and adolescent development and or positive youth development. Everything is being done from a deficit, punitive approach. Once we continue along those lines, I guarantee you, we will continue to see these violent situations.
What do you think should happen with the students who, or how you think the school should go about that particular school in Williamsville, going back, walking back the distance to where this thing may have started and who may have been involved and was responsible? Those students who...
Hazel Thompson and he have been touting restorative justice, restorative circles in Trinidad for quite some time.
Yes.
We have not adopted the beauty of what those restorative circles and justice can do. We misappropriate what it means, and we do not see the value in it because we think it is too much work. But what needs to happen now is, again, a person like myself or somebody like this can come in and sit with these students and listen to what they have to say. What the social workers and guidance counselors should be doing is really trying to help the students understand what has happened, understand what may have caused it, and look for solutions within the school. I would recommend some serious youth programs to be part of the school to give the young people something in a positive light to do. What we should be doing is helping the students understand where they are mentally, what are some of the challenges they face, and what are some of the resolution in a non-punitive, non-judgmental way. And I think those are the things that we need to be doing, not just in the Williamsville school, but in all our schools right now. I keep making the point, our children went through an odious task for 2 years plus. And nobody seemed to understand how that would have affected them. We as an adult know how it affected us, and we didn't do too well. And so we could imagine for children who have limited coping mechanisms to try to manage all of this. And we are not talking to them, we are not listening to them. And so a targeted program, sustained program in our schools to listen and to help our young people using a positive youth development model approach.
We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much, sir. I think inside of what you said, I just want to say this. There's sometimes when we do some things right, and one of the things we did right was your being appointed chairman of the Children's Authority at that time.
God is good. God is good. Andy, we continue to push forward. Trinidad and Tobago, we continue to push forward. That's all we can do. Yeah. That's why I make myself available to people like you so I could help wherever I can in whatever capacity I can. As I used to say in America, put me by the bus stop on a stool, I will do the work. God bless.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
All right, so let's take a look. Let's continue a look around the region now as we come down to the bottom of the hour. The story from Barbados, and the Prime Minister there was calling on the Americans to team up and procure goods for the people of the region, given what is seen as the global supply chain challenges.
Motley noted this is a critical move for small states in light of global supply chain difficulties.
It's wrong that Cuba and Venezuela, Nicaragua are not here because, as you heard from Bahamas, that we need to speak with those with whom we disagree. And we don't only need to narrowcast. That's the part of the problem of the world. There's too much narrowcasting instead of broadcasting. There's too much talking at instead of talking with. But secondly, those countries must equally recognize that you cannot want to fully participate if you're not prepared equally to engage and to see progress. And the simple priority must be people, not ideology. If we can make progress for people, if we can allow people to speak different languages, if we can create a minimum floor of education and healthcare for the people of the Americas, then, my friends, the City of Angels would have played its role in the history of the Americas.
Before she ended her speech, the Prime Minister added her voice to concern about the exclusion of Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua from the meeting, stressing the need for dialogue. She made clear it should not have happened.
And why? In the Caribbean, we make an order and they say, what? That's too small for us. We announced a tax holiday for electric vehicles. We cannot get the supply of electric vehicles. Will Brazil help us? Will India help us? Will the United States or will Canada help us? We can't get access to batteries in order to help us become net zero by 2030. But yet we want to come on these platforms and talk about it. These are the real problems that I hope PAC 2030 will allow us to solve. And when we finish with PAC 2030, Canada and Chile and all of the others, can we create that platform for that joint procurement to reduce the price of supplies and to guarantee access to our people?
All right, well, that's our broadcast for this Tuesday morning. We want to thank you for watching. We want to thank our guests, and we'll tell you in half an hour. We have news on the hour again, followed by today's edition of Talking Point with Sean Small. You could stay with us here at WESNCC to get on to AM Prime. You could send your emails to amprime@wesncc.com. I'm Andy Johnson. Thanks for watching. We see you tomorrow.